Welcome to another episode of eCom Experiences, a podcast for e-commerce marketing leaders who want to grow and scale their brands faster. Join us as we interview some of the smartest brand founders and marketing leaders in the industry. Explore the lessons they learned, discover the keys to their success, and discuss what excites them most about the future.
Hi, it's Samir Balwani here, host of eCom Experiences, where we talk to brand founders and marketing leaders about their experiences growing brands. This episode is brought to you by Query. Query is a paid media agency that helps brands balance brand awareness and performance marketing to drive predictable and profitable growth. To learn more about how we can help you, visit weareqry.com. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I have Eleah Portillo. She's the Fractional CMO for Wellness. She's got a lot to teach us, a lot to talk about, and I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So Leah, let's start with the easy stuff. Tell us about you. Tell us about the brand that you work for.
Sure. So right now I'm working for Wellness. And so historically, the brands I like to consult for, they're always in the health and wellness space. But historically, I really gravitated towards people that remind me of myself, right? So targeting moms or targeting to women. And this one's a little different because I'm actually targeting 50 plus golf fans of Phil Mickelson. Now, why am I here is because, first of all, they have an incredible team, and I can get to that later. But more importantly, because the story is so good. So I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but I'm not actually a golf fan, and it's not actually something I watch. But the story's so interesting and so relatable. So Phil Mickelson is apparently one of the best golfers in the world, number 2 to Tiger Woods, so I hear. And I know I'm probably getting a lot of cringes right now. But
I love this. I think this is my favorite.
I actually had to Google him after
oh, this is awesome! I love it.
But after my first call, the story is, and it's 100% true and factual, which is why I was like, absolutely yes, let's freaking do this. Is he woke up, I think, after his 40th-ish birthday, we'll go with, but he had this really painful psoriatic arthritis, right? And he is a professional athlete for his sport, so obviously that's not great. And my understanding is that it was truly crippling for him. Now, being the golf guy that he was, he has a lot of health and wellness golf bro friends that like live and breathe this stuff. And one of them is this guy named Dave Phillips, who grew up in South Africa, and now he's a professional performance coach. Why am I getting into this? Loves coffee because he's from South Africa, and he grew up in that world. But 2, he's always tinkering like a scientist with with L-theanine in your coffee to help with the jitters, or with collagen for joint pain. And so Phil was his friend, and he made this formula literally for Phil in his kitchen, and it worked so well. Phil actually won let's just call it the PGA Tour, something big. Again, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but he won it as the oldest. He won it like significantly older than anyone else. So this is something that works so well. And after that, they're like, we need to actually do something with this. And so what I like about this story is it's not that I'm a male golf enthusiast. It's because I've been there, right? I'm 41. I've been at Barry's and looking at everyone else's sprint thinking, holy crap, like what happened to me? I can't keep up like I used to. So we've all been to where we've gone home and we thought, gosh, if I could just if there was just a little incremental improvement in how I used to bounce back, or, and so that story really resonated with me. And also, as a consultant, you have the luxury of working with brands that you get to choose, right? And I really want to work for companies that absolutely work. The efficacy is phenomenal, and all of their products are really amazing. And so I think that there's a great story to tell there. I know there is. And that's why I work for Wellness, and that's where I'm at. It's a little bit about what we're doing.
So here's the one thing I will say, and I love this because there's so many celebrity brands out there. They're coming up every day in beauty and fashion and wellness as a whole too. I love that you didn't really know who Phil Mickelson is, because then you could align on the product.
Yeah,
and I think that is actually a really key. So like when we look at beauty brands or celebrity brands, we really try and remove the celebrity element of it and actually look at the product. Because what you don't want to have, and what will always fail, is any brand that has a bad product. It doesn't matter how much star product power you put behind it, it's going to fail. And so I love that you not knowing who Phil Middleton is forced you to have to look at the product.
Well, and you know what, they sent me a box and it was all really great stuff. And I'm a supplement junkie. I'm like, I won't even tell you because I've worked in VMS for so long for really good companies like Smarty Pants Vitamins and the Unilever Health and Wellness Collective. I am a bit of a vitamin snob and a VMS category snob, and they have really good stuff. So,
Love that.
and to your point, like there's celebrity brands launching, like especially in beauty and wellness, every minute. And I think that, yeah, I mean, I love the pop of organic. I'm not going to lie. Whenever he plays golf,
Oh,
right?
for
Like,
sure. Yeah.
see it in your organic search. But it's. Do you actually have a good product that actually solves their problem, and can you relate to their problem? And is it a problem that most of us struggle with, whether that is, you know, whatever age you're at or whatever that means to you? You don't have to be a professional athlete to think about, gosh, I wish I could just recover a little bit faster than I used to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
interesting too because it's authentic. It's authentic too, right? Like he didn't come out with a beauty brand. He came out with an athletics wellness, right? So
authenticity is such, like, it sounds so simplistic, especially on like a podcast. You want all these secrets, right? But the answer is smart creative that's built on psychological thought and authenticity. That's it. That's really it.
It's so funny you say that because I feel like people listen to the podcast, and if they've listened to my podcast for a while, they'll know they will be very disappointed if they assume a tactic is going to work because I think growth hacking is the worst thing that you can do for a brand, and I think that this especially in the media world, right? There's this underbelly of people that are constantly going, oh, well, I created all of these ad structures in this ad, and this is how we tested, and we got our CPM to this, and I'm like, great, that worked for a week.
Yeah.
Help me build a brand that's going to work for 5 years.
Scale like this niche. Like, what are you going to do with that? Right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe a creative is maybe this creative is working for this brand, but like just to copy paste it without understanding why it's working.
Yeah.
So,
well, and then to not take all the variables into account. So like things like, hey, maybe it was because it was July and that ad's going to stop working in December, and you're going to keep trying to hit your head against the wall trying to figure out how to get that to work again, but you didn't realize it was June, or a competitor had fallen out of the market and had actually nothing to do with your ad. And it was just like, it's so yeah, I mean, we're big proponents. I know you and I have talked about this a lot around it starts with the brand, the community around the brand, the reasons to believe, and performance marketing just gets kind of the halo of that.
you reminded me of something. So a couple months ago, I was working on a personal project with a product marketer named Holden Munson, who is the CEO of Rethink Labs. And, you know, she's from, you know, the tech world. So she thinks about product in that classic product way. And they think about what is the emotional state that somebody's in when they are using this service, and what is the emotional state you want them to be afterwards. And so you talked about July, right? So not just is there seasonality, like update your photography behind the key model, right? Maybe swap out an iced coffee for a warm coffee, but it's also like, what is going on in July? Are they on vacation? Are they stressed because their kids are home? Like, and how that relates to your product. I think it's actually so fun, I think, in our jobs to try to come up with these hypotheses a little bit deeper than just the obvious.
Yeah, and it's the stuff that that's the stuff we like to test. Like, I don't really care about the button color. I don't care about the font weight. Like, great, awesome.
Sure.
But what is the reason that somebody is actually engaging with the brand in that moment? And what is the offer? What's the message? What's the differentiator? The thing that will, move mountains is the stuff that I really want to understand and learn. I don't, but that's the thing that makes it more interesting.
Those are the bigger swings. The button color, like, I mean, again, I don't know, I'm using a sports analogy, but that's like the bunt. But like, if you want a big swing, that's what is the post-state emotional feeling that we want this consumer to feel after taking our product for 30 days? And like, is it a sense of accomplishment? What does that accomplishment do? Or maybe there's a different angle. Maybe you could look at like, what are all your negative reviews and how can you flip that in a way? Like AG1 crushes it with this, right? They're so expensive. I mean, they're a phenomenal product, but price, I'm assuming, is one of their biggest negative reviews, but they put that forward. They rip up the Band-Aid right away. They put that front and center in their ad copy. We're more expensive, and here's why. And I bet you that was a really bigger level or angle that they uncovered. So go
It's
beyond.
so fun. I love it because all right, so I'm supposed to have a whole host of questions here, but I already told you at the beginning of this that we are going to end up just chatting, and it's
We were
fine.
just going to chit chat.
So I love that you brought up price, because I think that that's also another one where people, a lot of brands make that mistake of, okay, I'm going to become a luxury brand. Okay, great. Like, just saying you're a luxury brand doesn't make you a luxury brand. And so this idea of being able to actually follow it up with a quality product that actually people want. And the people want is the hardest part about it, because that doesn't mean you just fulfilled a need. It doesn't mean you solved the problem. It's you created a community and that people talked about it, and it was something that they had built demand around. And so I love that idea about how AG1 went out and said, like, we're expensive because of, but I also hate it because they quantified why they're expensive. And they created this like feature benefit feel to their cost versus, hey, we're expensive because we're good. And good is everyone that uses it is an athlete. Everyone that uses it, everyone just uses it. And you're going to pay for it. And we don't really care. You're going to pay for it. And so
you're going to be locked in. There's no single purchase. It's subscribe only.
Yeah, exactly. So I saw that and I had this like two-part reaction to it.
I love to hear the counterpoint. You said something interesting, and I'd love to chat about it a little bit more. The concept of, I think all brands, including myself, right? Like, we're so guilty of, problem solution, right? Because we know as marketers, we should be solving their problems, not just talking about us. But when you're so obvious with problem solution, we're still making it about us as the brand, right? We need to make our customers the hero. And when you make them the hero, that's when they're like talking about it over cocktails and brunch with their friends, right? And that's when the community gets built.
Yeah, we talked about it. We used to talk about this all the time, in that no one goes, all right, when's the last time you talked about when's the last time you bought a tool and talked about it like, oh, I got this awesome hammer? You never talk about the hammer. You talk about what you built with the hammer.
What did you build? Yeah, make them the hero. Make them feel proud. What is I'm going to pronounce his name incorrectly and just get laughed at, but Simon Sinek, right? His whole concept of the golden circle. I love that. I love how dated the video looks, but side note, it still works.
It's still
What
quality.
I love is this key message about, like, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel, right? So going back into that post-date feels, or like in your example, they're proud to show their friends, I don't know, the birdhouse they built, right? Or whatever it is.
Or the thing they fixed. Because you're like, oh, I didn't have to get a handyman. I fixed this. I put this painting up, right? It wasn't the hammer. It's the thing that they accomplished, and that it made them feel like that. So how do you
weave that into your language, right? And then once you have that, I imagine it's really fun to collaborate on the media buying side, right? Because there's just endless fodder of keywords and brainstorming and I'd love to hear from you, actually, like, when you work with really creative forward brand, like, who are your favorite types of brands to work with? Because I know a lot of times we can come in and we could say, this is what I want to spend, and these are my expected KPIs, and then we just check out. But like, what is an amazing partner look like for you, so we can actually tease all those learnings and post-date feels into the media plan and measure?
It's actually really easy. And this is the part that it's super easy, but almost no one does it. And it's really frustrating.
I was going to say, I've been a client for a long time too, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
It's really understanding your customer. I think that is the one thing. So there's two pieces. There's really understanding your customer and actually understanding your customer. Too many brands go out there and say, this is who my customer is. And that's not who their customer is. It's who they want their customer to be.
1000%.
And that is the biggest miss for brands. And honestly, I would say 9 out of 10 times, if your media is not working, it's because you don't understand who your customer is. And I'll say this for almost all media agencies out there. The reality of the situation is we can help you incrementally better than another media agency. We're not going to suddenly have this like new tool or system that's going to suddenly change your campaigns all of a sudden, but we can help you and force you to think about them in a different way. And that's what we do. We will sit down with you and say, hey, who's your customer? Do you actually know who your customer is? Do you know what they want? Do you know what they want to feel? How they want to purchase from you? Do they want to do it in store? Do they want to do it online? Or do they want to ask a friend before they purchase from you? How long does it take them to purchase? These are all questions that you really need to understand. Because if my purchase cycle is a day, I don't really need to do too much brand awareness. You're a pretty high commodity. I can just show a consideration to a conversion ad, and we're good. If you're a considered purchase, it's going to take 3 months. Our buying cycle is 3 to 6 months. That's a lot of brand awareness. It's also a long investment. I'm going to make you wait 6 months before you start to see a return because we're going to be building brand equity for a while. So those are the things that people just don't do properly. And so I don't blame the client for that. I blame both the client and the media agency.
Yeah.
As a media agency, you should be holding your client accountable to those things. And as a client, you should be open to looking at who your customer actually is and not who you want it to be.
I have so much I want to talk to you about this. So I will say, like, I have been guilty of this. And I think my clients and people, and like when I was the client, I can understand. It's like you have this here's what I like about what you're saying. It's almost like you have this understanding that's the sweet spot between big brand. Let's just be honest. I worked at Unilever for 2 years. They are very much brand penetration awareness only. Those are their KPIs. That's what they care about. And
it's
there's
percentage market share, right? Like that's it. That's all I care about.
And let me be honest, at that scale, it really works for retail, right? But then there's the other end of the spectrum of like the pure play. They start out as D2C or maybe Amazon, and they are just like very performance first marketers, and they only get conversion, and then like, yes, retention, but there's nothing feeding that funnel. And they scale to a certain point and they're like, well, hey, why can't I build a brand? Right? Well, it's because like, I should simplify this, but like CPAs are like optimizing for conversion. That's actually the easier part, right?
So much easier.
It's so much easier, and it's so much more satisfying. And let's be honest, I think it's fun and sexy, right?
Yeah.
But you get a lot of like quick gratification. Like like a common complaint is like, oh gosh, it's taking weeks to get this point. Guys, we're talking about weeks, okay? Like when we look at brand, we're looking at 6 to 12 month increments. Now, on the flip side, again, my biggest issue with the larger conglomerates is, how are you going to understand who your customer is if you're not keeping a pulse on the D2C and the lower funnel? You need. Okay, I'm a CPG junkie, so if that's literally at this point, that's the category I'll be staying as health wellness CPG.
I love that.
So if you're listening and that's not your category, I hope this still helps you. But my philosophy is, especially if you're in retail and omnichannel, is D2C. This is where you learn who your customer is, right? This is where you understand what messaging really works. This is who's our persona. And, you could also be looking at it by LTV, right? Like, can you tack on that predicted LTV to these personas, to the messaging, to the hooks, to the emotional triggers, whatever it is you want to apply it to? Great, because you can only do that in D2C, and it's freaking awesome and amazing. But then you got to make money. So let's be real. Profitability, even with the best agencies,
I appreciate it.
You guys are amazing. Even with the best agencies, D2C net profitability, it's a slog. It's hard. It's possible. It's absolutely possible, but it's hard. So you take those learnings, you replicate as much as you can in Amazon, right? Amazon's a little bit more black box. You don't fully get that attribution, but you can make correlation lifts, blah, blah, blah. But Amazon is for scale, right? And you use that Amazon top line revenue, that's what gets you sell-in to retail, and retail's where you make your margin, right? Find me a CFO that doesn't want multi-million-dollar POs every Monday. Every PO is profitable, right? You want that. And you need that cycle to feed each other again and again. So like you can't drop one for the other. And I think an issue with like the mid to larger size brands is to get to this point because, again, those POs are really addicting. They feels really good to be in retail, but at 6 to 12 months, if you're not hitting your velocities because you lost track of who your customers, you're off the shelf.
That's the thing. That's the piece that people always forget. And this is actually one of our frustrations for a lot of our brands is why is brand media falling in e-com P&L? And this becomes a huge conversation point and pretty consistently becomes a huge conversation point because the problem is that e-com is the only area where brand spend directly equates to scale.
Yes.
And so CFOs are like, great, you get it. And you got to hit your numbers and you got to maintain profitability. Well, then brand gets cut first, right? And then you see downstream impacts. So we work with a lot of brands that have almost all of our brands are true omni-channel. They have e-com, they've got a retail location, and they're in wholesale. And yet most of the brand spend still comes out of e-com. And when we get asked to cut brand spend, like clockwork, about 3 to 4 weeks later, hey, our retail numbers are really down. Hey, our wholesale velocities.
It's weird as our CPAs too.
And it's just like a never-ending conversation. And then we got to go back. And so, you said something really interesting. You said performance marketing can be easier and brand can be harder at times. And it's true. So performance marketing, I think, is easier because you've got a handful of channels. You already know who the customer is. You are activating against those. And now it's a matter of putting spend where it makes the most sense and getting the right creative in place. And so you're doing a lot of testing. But the answer in terms of why is our performance not there? It's, well, we're spending too much and we have to move into brand. Well, okay, great. Move it back to performance and then you're fine. Yeah, great. Now we scaled down. And it's easy because a CFO understands that. A CEO understands that. It's very straightforward. Brand on the media side is really easy. Reach and frequency all day long, right? Like, great. Gets really hard when we then have to...
couple people to see if they remembered us. Cool.
Yeah. Now, justifying it to the CEO and CFO and showing downstream impact, that's where it's hard. And so I think media as a whole has its ease and hard parts. And so that's why we like managing both, where we can manage brand and performance. Because then I can go into a CFO's office and say, hey, like here you want to cut brand, but when we run brand, look at what happens to your CPM. When we cut brand, look at what happens to your CPAs.
I think you guys may be some of the few. I've had the privilege of working with really dope, scrappy small agencies and big name brand agencies, thanks to my time at Unilever, right? And so I've worked with a lot of great and not so great partners. It is really, really rare to hear what you just said. It always feels like we're pulling our hair out to say, hey, show me the impact. And it sounds like you just made it really simple to show the downstream impact and the different scenarios. Why do you think it's such an issue? Why do you think that? Is it because there's just different types of media buyers and media agencies and misaligned incentives, maybe with how people make their money?
There's a lot of misaligned incentives. I also think there's a lot of performance media agencies and a lot of brand agencies, and there's not a lot of agencies that do both well. There's a lot of performance media agencies that are saying, hey, we can do brand. And brand is just awareness on Meta. And
we just update we're optimizing against, sure.
We do some interest level targeting and call it a day. But yeah, exactly. But to actually think about the impacts of it, to actually have a measurement strategy around it so you can qualify it and quantify it at the end of the day that's where I think brand marketers need to go. And it's become really hard because it does. I talk about media has become this really difficult place where you need to be both creative and data driven at the same time. And not so creative that you're actually creating, photography and assets and design, but creative in the sense of you have to be able to think beyond Facebook and Google and data metrics all day long and being able to have a really good sense behind the art of media, because there is still a science around it. And then we get a lot of data around it. And so we can, you get a process, but there is so much of, hey, I intrinsically know if someone sees my ad, they will probably come and purchase. But where are they going to purchase from? How are they going to purchase? What does the next step in that journey need to be? how do I talk to people to find that out? Right? Like, I would talk to golfers and be like, guys, have you heard about this? What do you think about it? And when would you use it? Would you have it before you go golfing? Would you have it when you come back? Is this like a morning thing? Great. Now my media buys are going to change. It's a morning thing. I want to hit you in while you're drinking your cup of coffee. So it just,
Yeah.
and having those, having that perspective, which is hard for performance marketers because they're so, all right, I got my dashboard. I got my Excel spreadsheet. I got my pivot table. Let's go.
Let's
But to
go.
then go to, gosh, I got to talk to people. That's like a whole different world. So that I think that's the new age of media buying.
Well, there's a couple things there, right? Like for a little bit, Meta Google made it so easy. You
Oh
didn't need to do that. And
no,
that's why we got, let's just call it bloat, it
yep,
was like, and a lot of VC funding that we were burning. Let's be real. It was an era. That era is gone. Now we have to be real marketers, right? And so that's
yeah,
really what you're saying is we can't just be like, okay, this is what I do. I'm really great at optimizing, but like if you don't understand the bigger picture or the ramifications, and I will say to the other media and buyers and agencies listening, I've been client and I represent client side, and so I do want to share a frustration is that sometimes you have to remember we're trying to build not just a brand but a business. It has to be profit. The subscription retention has to be there. I can't lose my subscription percentage so far or the LTV so far off just to get the CPA. It's
yeah,
bigger than just a one optimization point. But where was I going with this? Oh, but the other good news is there's so many ways now to do that customer research.
yeah.
Yeah, obviously like one-to-one surveys and interviews and all of that, but like, I mean, taking your reviews, taking your competitors' reviews, taking analysis
Mm-hmm.
category reviews, throwing that in your chat GPT of choice,
Yeah.
and starting to like pull out that and then organize that by emotional states or like how are we different than our competitors? Like like it is so easy. I
It's
should
so
say
much
it's so
easier.
much easier is what I
Yeah,
should say.
it's so much easier now than it was before, where you just had like, I still remember we used to call customers after they purchased,
And
and
you
we're
know
like,
what?
hey,
Your brand still should be calling the customers.
yeah, I mean, you should still call your
But,
customers, and
but
but like, I
yeah,
remember that was our only source of information at a time. Or you were like, we go to trade shows. We don't really care if we sell anything. We just want to talk to people.
yeah.
Great. Like that used to be the case, and now between social listening, between reviews, between feedback cards, post-purchase surveys, like
Reddit
all there's
thread.
so much stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, Reddit threads.
yeah.
Oh, it's like one of our first things that we do. Because like to your point earlier on, the beauty of being an agency, the beauty of being a consultant is you get to work with the clients that you want to work with, right?
Mhm.
So I think the thing that a lot of brands forget is when we are pitching you, we are also vetting you.
Oh,
And
yes.
so, like, we do not, I think we say yes to less brands than, yeah. So we're very thoughtful around it because for us, we really do want to scale you. Like, for us, if we put together a strategy and we're like, hey, like brand is a big piece of that strategy, and you're like, yeah, we're never going to do this. Well, then it wasn't it wasn't a win. We're not a good fit. And so we
Yeah.
need to make sure that there's a good fit in terms of both our media philosophy, in terms of what we think about from an advertising standpoint, your business fundamentals. Like, I actually like, will you continue to stay in business?
Point.
Uh,
Never thought about that actually. That's a great point.
yeah, and then just like your future vision for the business. Well,
Yeah.
and then it comes down to relationship. Like, do we actually like working together? So I think that it's really important for brands to really be thinking about that too, because all the stuff that we look for is what makes a brand a good brand that is likely to scale. And we do it a lot, so we get to see it a lot.
I want to say one little tip. And again, now this is for all let's say you're a newer on the marketing side, brand side, client side, D2C, whatever you are. If you're like a coordinator, manager level, cool. Here's something you should think about is people at agencies are humans, right? So not only like you don't have to be nice for the sake of nice, but let's be good humans to each other. Let's not, there's no need to like flex to see who's the smarter marketer or be rude. My insider tip is you want your agency humans on the other side of the Zoom screen to like you. Because guess what? When shit hits the fan and there's a fire and you need a homie hookup, you want to be able to have them be like, sorry, you have to wait till Monday. Or would you prefer that they're like, you know what, this is a pain in my ass, but I got you, girl, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and honestly, real communication. I think we get by we I mean in my past life, in particular at the larger corporate, it's everyone's so scared of either making the call that backfires or breaking protocol and standing out in a negative way that we never get to. It's so corporate speak that with our, every call's recorded and there's like
Yeah.
this fear that maybe someone will listen to it and I didn't represent the brand properly or something. If you're my agency, I need to make sure that we're on the same page,
Yeah.
not just personality, but and actually personality, but really like, do you understand what my boss is grilling me about right now and
Yeah.
why? Because you may have a way better, you oversee so many other clients, you may have a different solution, even in a different category, that's the same problem I'm facing that I wouldn't even know if I weren't more transparent with you. So that's my
Yeah.
little
And
tip if anyone's listening and
I think that is probably one of the most valuable things. I think managing agencies is probably one of the hardest yet most important thing a marketing person does.
Mm,
In terms of making sure that they understand the goals, making
mhm,
sure that they're aligned, making sure they're excited,
mm,
because you know when you feel like your agency is phoning it in, at one point, just take a second and look around and be like, was I
yeah,
part of the problem? Did I lead to this? Did we say no too many times? Did we not give them the right context enough? And look, I don't think it's the brand. I'd say it's the agency 90% of the time and the brand 10% of the time. But I think that the best clients that we've worked for and worked with have been the ones that got excited with us, got
yeah,
us excited, were open to new ideas. And even if they couldn't do it now, they said, you know what? We don't have the budget for it right now. It's a great idea. Let's table it. Let's revisit it in our next year's plan. I'm going to try and figure out how to do it. Things like that. Being organized, God, if you can be organized on the brand side and just like not have a fire every
well, I'm
day.
gonna be honest, it's not my strongest suit naturally. Thankfully, there's some tools that keep me in line, but
But
yes.
just even having a marketing calendar that we're
Oh,
working towards, right?
yeah.
Like, I think one of the biggest misnomers a lot of brands have is, oh, it's media, just turn it on and off.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, if you want to increase spend, we can increase spend X percentage every day until we hit your goal, which may be 30 days from now. Or
Sure.
you want to cut down spend? Great, we can decrease spend X percent over a certain period of time to get you to where you need to, unless you're comfortable destroying your outcomes, right?
Without
Like,
I can I'm gonna give you an anecdote, and I'm not gonna it's such a simplistic one, so everyone who's already listening to this is like, yeah, a dime a dozen. But I think we've all been there where you are under pressure to test so much at once that beyond what your budget can sustain
yes.
and give you, right? And so you are just swapping landing pages and testing creatives, and it's like you never get out of the learning phase, and how that looks on the other channels outside of Meta, and it's just you don't get to learn anything because you change gears so much, you're just stalling out. Um,
Yeah.
so I love what you said about hey, we can't do it this year, but let's put this in this wish list and maybe we can budget for it next year. Look, I'll be the first to tell you, it's super annoying. Sometimes when you have to forecast, we forecast a year out and so much changes in a year. The way we consume media changes, trends
Yeah.
change in a year, right? But being able to have a safe place with your agency, with your in-house team or whatever partners you have where you can be like, "Hey, budgets aside, what is like what could we do? What would be amazing?" And then you can either be like, "Look, are there some that we could kind of pare down and play with now? Are there some that we should table for later?" But
Yeah.
what I like that you said was, "We will be partners next year," because
Yeah.
you're building a long-term relationship. And so I think that's so important to have with your media agencies.
And I mean, I think the other piece of it too is just the the best clients tell us everything. They
Mm.
don't
Even if
they
they
don't
wanted to direct.
silo. Yeah, and they don't silo stuff out. So like the best agency, we just did a agency roundtable with another one of our clients where they brought all of the agencies together. We did a half day with them, and
That's so
every
cool.
agency presented their plan for the next half.
Oh my gosh, that's like my dream. I
Yeah,
love that.
it's great. I mean, that's what Unilever does really well. I was at Amex before. That's what Amex does really well. Is that they bring everyone to the table and they say we've got experts, but it's only helpful if they all talk to each other. Well, great. We did that second half program. Realized that they're going to do a direct mail catalog. My team came back and said, you know what? I think we can do a lift campaign against that catalog around the time periods that they're doing that catalog. We did it. Huge results, right? Like, but that wouldn't happen unless we were all talking together. And so it's not always realistic to get all your agencies together, but as the marketing manager on the brand side, it's your job to make sure those communication lines are open. And it's, hey, we got a monthly report from our media agency. Let me send it to my affiliate team.
That
Let
is
them
a
see what's
great
going
point.
on. Like, let
That
them
is
know
a
what's
really
going
great
on.
point.
So,
Yeah, even if you're small and you don't have the privilege of being Unilever where they are willing to sit down together.
yeah.
But to your point, yeah, that is it's not just being organized, it's being from like a organizing your creative brand assets perspective. It's being organized from a, okay, let's consolidate the key learnings from the past quarter. Like let's do an internal QBR, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
make sure all of our stakeholders are given the tools to succeed.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where like the wins come from. Otherwise, everyone
Mhm.
just gets into the, okay, we did this and we did that and we did this. But everyone's just like kind of going through the motions. And the big ideas don't come out until you say, hey, um, another example of this is we had a client of ours and they're like, hey, our organic search is really just hurting. And we're like, great, yeah, like we can take a look at that from a paid media perspective and see what's going on the paid search side. Did a deep dive and realized their brand demand, because their brand search volume had been atrophying over the last 3 years. So for
Mm,
every year, they kept going down. And so that gave us the ammunition to go to the client and say, hey, look, it's not only us, your SEO agency is saying the same thing. I
yeah.
think it's time for a brand investment. Here's what that investment could look like. Here's what we want to test. Here's where it's going to come. We ran it and they turned around their brand search volume. And this is the first time year over year they're up against last year. And so it's just those kinds of situations, those kind of conversations that lead to meaningful results. If we stuck to A/B testing landing pages and creative, we
Good point.
still would have had downward brand demand, but we would have been really efficient. All the ship was sinking. And it's just
All the
like,
ship was sinking. A really tight Titanic.
exactly, very efficient. But yeah, I mean, like those are like the. I think that if I were to kind of take apart some of the we've had a lot of fun in this conversation, but I think some of the key takeaways for people is just we are definitely entering an age of marketing basics, and I love that you're a professor teaching this for people too. It's just like there is core elements of how do you persuade someone to buy your product, because at the end of the day, that's what the end goal is. The
Right.
path to get there may be I need to build a brand, and what does it build a brand mean, right? Is your brand safety and security? Like Tylenol needs to make sure that people trust it and know it's safe.
Yeah.
Is it I'm building a community? A lot of fashion brands have to say like when you wear this, you are part of this community.
Mhm.
Or is it around features and benefits? I have a product that actually allows you to do things. You can build a brand around different elements. It's just a question of where are you going to go with it.
Mm.
So I think that that's like a really great part. But then also there's this transition of what the marketing manager, the marketing person on the brand side needs to be doing. And it's going from tactical all day long, just like I'm doing, to I'm also going to think and lean on my teams and think about how I kind of connect everything together and what does the long-term vision look like.
Mhm.
What do you think on that?
Well, obviously, I agree with you 1,000%. I just want to give a shout out to the marketing managers who are feeling very siloed and beating
Yes.
their heads against the wall. So if I could give one last tip in relation to this is if you're at a larger company, especially if and it seems to be a little bit more siloed, and by larger, I just mean like more than 20. When you
Yeah.
0 to 20 to 25 is like so fun.
Everyone's still friends.
And then all of a sudden, after, from that to 100, it's just a different culture, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where the silos start to pop in. And, that's where people are less friendly, I guess. But the what I would say is do take the time to advocate for your business
Yeah.
internally. And if that was a mistake that that is a mistake that I for sure made was I just thought, look, I'm going to focus on what I'm getting paid to do because I love it and I want to crush it. Well, you can't crush it in digital if retail sales are going to, make choices that they don't understand the downstream impact because you are choosing not to communicate, right?
Yeah.
So to ensure that you can have that beautiful flywheel that you were just describing, I advocate to everyone in that seat, because I've been in that seat. It is worth the time. It's almost like brand awareness. You need to do your own brand awareness so that when you turn on your conversion, it converts.
That's
you know?
true. It's like advocating. It's almost education, right? Because
Yes,
it's like
educating the rest of the company, ops,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
finance. It's
I
important.
mean, retail doesn't understand that when they make pricing and sale decisions, it impacts e-com.
That Amazon will price match or
price match
Walmart,
automatically.
and then all of a sudden everything's below map.
Well, and the crazy part is there are strategies to work through that, right? So if people communicate, there are ways to do that. You can create different SKUs, you can create bundles, you can do things to make sure that doesn't happen. But you just have to be, and this is where I say it's the best brands that we worked with communicate and have a vision. And it really boils down to that. And if you can do those two things really, really well, it's on. Then you are miles ahead of a lot of other people. And just this like natural curiosity and wanting to learn more and wanting to work together really helps. And finding people that can do that is really key.
I love that. Well, I would hope that all of us still have a glimmer of that desire to be good communicators if we've raised our hands to say that we want to be marketers. So
yeah.
I guess that's my CTA to everyone listening is let's be better marketers for our brand and company as a steward, be stewards to our brand and better marketers internally so that we can equip our partners with this information that they need for us to be successful.
Oh, I love it. This was, I'm going to close us on that. Eleah, thank you so much for joining us. If someone wants to find you online, where can they go to find out more about you?
I'm pretty sure I'm the only Eleah Portillo, so ELEAH PORTILLO on LinkedIn. I look forward to hopefully some new friends.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, remember to subscribe so you'll be notified of new episodes. And if you know someone who would enjoy the show, don't forget to share and leave a review. It all helps us impact more brands. If you're looking to improve your paid media, go to weareqry.com and schedule a consultation. We're always happy to chat. See you for the next one.